My name is Leland, and I never imagined my life could unravel in such a slow, suffocating way. If someone had told me a year ago that my marriage would collapse, I would have laughed it off. But looking back now, I can see how the signs had been there all along. I was just too blind to see them. Or maybe I just didn't want to. It started small. A few missed goodnight kisses. A couple of dinners eaten in silence. I told myself it was just stress, that Edra, my wife of 10 years, was going through a rough patch at work. But then weeks passed, then months, and the silence between us grew into something thick, heavy, impossible to ignore. I used to wake up to her body curled next to mine, her warmth grounding me in ways I never realized I needed. Now, I woke up to cold sheets, the space between us on the bed growing wider each night. She stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped asking how my day was, stopped looking at me as if I was the man she had once promised forever to. Then, the late night started. At first, it was work-related. At least that's what she told me. Sorry, Leland. The team needs me. I'll be late. The texts became repetitive, automatic, lacking any real emotion. The excuses were perfectly reasonable at first. But then, I started noticing things. The scent of cologne on her clothes, one that wasn't mine. The way she'd flinch when I tried to touch her. How she started sleeping with her phone clutched in her hand, tucking it under the pillow as if she were guarding a secret. I wanted to believe I was overthinking, that I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew. One night, after another one of her late shifts, I sat in the dark, waiting for her to come home. She walked through the door at 2:17 a.m., her hair slightly disheveled, her lipstick faded. When she saw me sitting on the couch, she froze. "You're still up?" she asked, her voice tight. I stared at her for a long time. "Who is he?" Her reaction told me everything. The way her throat tightened as she swallowed. The way she quickly looked away as if the walls had suddenly become more interesting. But she didn't answer. Instead, she exhaled sharply, muttered something about being exhausted, and walked right past me to the bedroom. That was the moment I realized she had already left me. Maybe not physically, not yet, but emotionally, she was gone. And I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. I barely slept that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of Edra breathing beside me. It wasn't the soft, peaceful breathing I used to love, the kind that signaled she was safe, content, in the arms of someone she trusted. No, this was different. It was distant, shallow, like she was barely present even in sleep, like she was just waiting for morning so she could escape again. I turned my head, watching her silhouette in the dim moonlight. The woman lying beside me was still my wife, but at the same time, she wasn't. The Edra I knew would have never let this silence take root between us. The Edra I married would have reached for me, pulled me close, whispered reassurances in the dark. But this version of her? She was just gone. Morning came, and with it, the same routine we had been stuck in for months. She barely acknowledged me as she got ready for work. The air between us was thick, suffocating. "I might be late tonight," she said, grabbing her purse. I didn't respond. I just watched her from the kitchen, my coffee growing cold in my hands. She hesitated for a moment, as if expecting me to say something. Maybe she wanted me to ask her why. Maybe she wanted a fight, an excuse to turn me into the villain. But I wasn't going to give her that. Not yet. So she left, and I sat there, feeling like a fool. I couldn't do this anymore. I needed the truth, and I needed it now. The investigation. That was the day I made a decision I never thought I'd have to make in my marriage. I needed proof. I needed to see with my own eyes what my gut was already screaming at me. So, I did something that felt like both betrayal and self-preservation. I called a private investigator. His name was Alden, a man in his late 50s with a voice that carried the weight of too many broken marriages. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. He just listened as I explained my suspicions, nodding along like he had heard it all before. "She's hiding something," I said. "I just need to know what." Alden exhaled through his nose. "Most people who come to me already know the answer, Leland. They just need confirmation." That sentence hit harder than I wanted to admit. We set everything up, tracking her movements, keeping an eye on her late nights at work. It didn't take long. 2 nights later, Alden sent me a message. You need to see this. My stomach twisted as I opened the attached photos. There she was, Edra, my wife, sitting in a dimly lit restaurant, her hand resting on the arm of another man, leaning in close, smiling in a way she hadn't smiled at me in a long time. And then, my chest caved in, her lips on his. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. The walls closed in around me as I stared at the images, unable to breathe, unable to think. This was it. This was real. She was cheating on me. The moment everything changed. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at my phone. Minutes? Hours? The world outside moved on, but I was frozen in that moment, trapped in a reality I never wanted to face. When Edra walked through the door that night, I was waiting for her. She didn't expect me to be awake. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw me sitting at the kitchen table, the only light coming from the lamp overhead. For a second, I thought she might confess, that she might see the devastation on my face and finally tell me the truth. But she didn't. She just dropped her keys onto the counter and sighed. Why are you up? I slid my phone across the table toward her. She didn't even have to pick it up. One glance at the screen, and her whole body went stiff. Silence. Thick, unbearable silence. Then, finally, she spoke. Leland, it's not what you think. I let out a hollow laugh. That's the best you've got? Really? She swallowed, her hands shaking as she reached for the phone. I can explain. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Then explain, Edra. Explain why my wife has been sneaking around behind my back. Explain why you've been ignoring me for months. Explain why you're kissing another man. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, but nothing came out, because there was no explanation, only the truth. And the truth was, she had already chosen someone else. She just hadn't told me yet. I felt something inside me snap. I wasn't going to wait around for her to decide when to leave. So, the next morning, I made my own choice. I packed my bags, and I walked away. Walking away should have felt like freedom. It should have been a relief to finally break free from the weight of betrayal, to reclaim my life instead of waiting for Edra to decide when she was finally done with me. But as I stepped out of the house that morning, suitcase in hand, all I felt was emptiness. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. Hours passed, the highway stretching endlessly ahead of me. The city faded in the rearview mirror, replaced by miles of nothingness. I barely registered the road signs, the gas stations, the world moving past me at 70 miles per hour. All I could hear was the echo of her voice from the night before. Leland, it's not what you think. I can explain. Lies. She hadn't even tried to deny it. Not really. She had just stood there, caught, exposed, scrambling for words that wouldn't come because she had nothing left to say. And I had stood there like an idiot, waiting for her to admit what I already knew. I had wasted too much time on her silence. By the time I finally stopped driving, the sun had set, and I found myself in some nameless town, parked outside a cheap motel. The neon vacancy sign buzzed overhead, casting flickering light onto the cracked pavement. It was the kind of place people disappeared into when they didn't want to be found. I checked in without thinking. The receptionist didn't ask questions. I paid in cash, took my key, and locked myself inside a room that smelled like stale air and regret. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. I had no reason to call her, no reason to check for messages. But my fingers moved on their own, opening the screen, scrolling through old photos. Our wedding day. Our first vacation together. Laughing selfies that felt like they belonged to a different lifetime. I hated her. I hated her for what she had done. But I hated myself more for still missing her. I should have known it wouldn't end so easily. The text started the next morning. First, it was a single message. Where are you? I ignored it. Then another. Please, Leland, let's talk. I turned off my phone. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. I wasn't ready to listen to her spin some half-baked story about how it hadn't meant anything, how she had just made a mistake. I had seen the pictures. I had seen the way she looked at him, touched him. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. And she had chosen him. The days blurred together after that. I stayed in that motel, moving between the bed and the window, watching the world go on without me. I didn't answer calls. I didn't respond to emails. I barely ate. Then, on the third night, there was a knock at my door. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. I sat there, frozen, listening as it came again. 2 short, sharp knocks. I didn't move. Then I heard her voice. "Leland, I know you're in there." I closed my eyes, gripping the edge of the bed so hard my knuckles turned white. She had found me. I didn't know how, but she had. "Please," she said, her voice shaking. "I need to talk to you." I stayed silent. Another knock. Harder this time. "I know you hate me. I know I deserve that. But please, Leland, just open the door." I should have ignored her. I should have let her stand there all night, left her in the same silence she had forced me to live in for months. But I didn't. I got up, walked to the door, and opened it. And the moment I saw her standing there, tears in her eyes, I realized that whatever she was about to say, it wouldn't be enough. Not this time. I stood there in the doorway, gripping the frame so tightly my nails dug into the wood. Edra looked different, worn, exhausted, as if she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfect hair was a tangled mess, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying for hours. Good. She deserved to feel even a fraction of the pain she had put me through. "Say whatever you came here to say and leave," I said, my voice flat, emotionless. I had spent too much time caring, too much energy trying to fix what had already shattered. She swallowed hard. "Leland, please, can I come in?" "No." Her face twisted with something between guilt and desperation. I just need you to listen." I crossed my arms. "You don't get to ask me for anything anymore." The words hit her like a slap. She nodded slowly, as if she had expected that answer but still hoped for something else. "I messed up," she whispered. I let out a hollow laugh. "No kidding." She flinched but kept going. It wasn't what you think." I clenched my jaw. "Then explain it to me, Edra. Explain why my wife has been ignoring me for months, why she's been sneaking around, why she's been kissing another man." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because there was no explanation that could make it okay. Her eyes darted away, and for a second, I saw it. The guilt, the shame, the realization that there was no way out of this. Then, she did what she always did. She tried to manipulate me. "Leland," she whispered, stepping closer. "I still love you." I let out a sharp breath, shaking my head. "No, you don't." Her lips trembled. "I do." "No, Edra." My voice was louder now, angrier. "You don't get to say that. Not after everything. You don't get to come here, looking like hell, crying like you're the victim, and expect me to believe you still love me." Her whole body shook as tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't let her finish. "You didn't just cheat," I said. "You erased me. You ignored me for weeks, made me feel like I didn't exist. And then, when I finally saw the truth, you didn't even try to fight for me. You just stood there." I took a step forward, forcing her to meet my eyes. "So don't stand here now and tell me you love me." She let out a choked sob, covering her face with her hands. For a moment, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. Then, she did something I didn't expect. She dropped to her knees. "I don't know why I did it," she whispered, shaking. "I swear to you, Leland, I don't know. I was lost, I was stupid, I cut her off with a sharp laugh. "You don't know?" She shook her head frantically. "I was feeling so alone, and he? Don't," I snapped. "Don't say his name. Don't you dare." She shut her mouth, her whole body trembling. The sight of her like this, broken, desperate, should have made me feel something. Pity, anger, satisfaction. But all I felt was exhaustion. I ran a hand down my face. "Just go home, Edra." She looked up at me, pleading. "Can we fix this?" I stared at her, stunned that she could even ask that. "No," I said. "We can't." Her sobs grew louder, but I didn't stay to listen. I stepped back inside, closed the door, and locked it. I leaned against it, listening as her cries faded into the night. And for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. But it didn't last. Because the next morning, I woke up to a knock at the door. And when I opened it, it wasn't Edra. It was him. I stared at the man standing in front of me, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. Tall, broad shoulders, dressed in a crisp button-up like he had just come from a business meeting. His face was the kind that might be called handsome under different circumstances. Strong jaw, piercing eyes. But all I saw was the man who had destroyed my marriage. He was the reason my wife had ignored me for weeks. He was the reason my life had fallen apart. I clenched my fists at my sides, every muscle in my body tense. "You've got 5 seconds to turn around and leave before I do something we'll both regret." He didn't move. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he let out a long sigh, like this whole thing was just as exhausting for him as it was for me. "We need to talk," he said. I laughed bitterly. "Oh, do we?" He shoved his hands into his pockets, his expression unreadable. "I'm not here to fight you, Leland." I stepped forward, closing the space between us. "Then why are you here?" My voice was low, steady, but inside, I was barely holding myself together. He held my gaze, and for a split second, something flashed in his eyes. Hesitation? Guilt? I wasn't sure, and I didn't care. "I think you deserve the truth," he finally said. I exhaled sharply, my hands still clenched. "I already know the truth." He shook his head. "No, you don't." I should have slammed the door in his face. I should have told him to take his guilt and shove it. But something in his voice, something in the way he stood there, looking like he was carrying the weight of the world, made me hesitate. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. "You've got 2 minutes." He nodded, stepping into the motel room. He glanced around, probably taking in the cheap furniture, the half-empty bottle of whiskey on the nightstand. I shut the door behind him, arms crossed. "Talk." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I didn't come here to make excuses." "Good," I said flatly, "because I don't want to hear them." He nodded slowly. "Fair enough." For a moment, he just stood there, staring at the floor like he was trying to figure out how to say whatever he had come to say. Then he looked up, and what he said next made my stomach drop. "She lied to both of us." I narrowed my eyes. "What the hell does that mean?" He let out a humorless laugh. "It means she told me she was leaving you, that your marriage was already over, that she was just waiting for the right time to tell you." My breath caught in my throat. "She told me," he continued, "that you were the one who checked out first, that you were distant, that you didn't love her anymore, that she was just a ghost in her own home, and you didn't even notice." He looked away. I believed her. Rage boiled in my chest. Not just at him, at her. She had rewritten our entire marriage. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had turned me into the villain in her story. I took a step forward. "And when did you realize she was lying?" He exhaled, looking guilty. "The night you found out." He shook his head. "I saw the way she reacted when you caught her. That wasn't a woman who had been planning to leave. That was a woman who got caught playing both sides." I let out a slow breath, my hands trembling. "So what? You feel bad now? That's supposed to make me feel better?" He met my eyes. "No, but I thought you should know." I scoffed. "And what about you, huh? You're some innocent victim in all this?" His jaw tightened. "No, I own my part in this. I should have never gotten involved. And I sure as hell should have never believed her lies." I stared at him, trying to decide if I believed anything he was saying. Then, before I could stop myself, I asked the one question that had been burning in my mind since the moment I saw those pictures. "Do you love her?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I took a step back, shaking my head. "Get out." He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else, but I was done. I walked to the door, yanked it open, and waited. He gave me one last look, something almost like regret in his eyes, before nodding and stepping out. The moment the door closed behind him, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I had my answer. She had lied to him. She had lied to me. But worst of all, she had made me disappear from my own life long before I ever walked away. And for that, I would never forgive her. I didn't sleep that night. After he left, I just sat there, staring at the door, my mind racing in 100 different directions. The weight of everything, the months of silence, the betrayal, the lies, pressed down on me until I felt like I could barely breathe. Edra hadn't just cheated. She hadn't just ignored me. She had erased me. She had rewritten the story of our marriage to fit her own needs, painting me as the distant, unloving husband while she played the role of the abandoned wife. And the worst part? I had almost believed it. I had spent months wondering if I had done something wrong, if I had missed something, failed to be enough for her. But now, I saw the truth for what it was. She had been planning this. Maybe not from the very beginning, but for long enough. Long enough to convince herself that she deserved to have both of us, me and him, until the decision was made for her. And now, I was supposed to just walk away and pretend it never happened? No. I had spent too long being ignored, being erased. I wasn't going to disappear quietly. The next morning, I packed my things, checked out of the motel, and drove back to the city. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew one thing. Edra didn't get to control the narrative anymore. When I pulled up to our house, her house now, her car was in the driveway. Good. I climbed out, walked up to the front door, and knocked. A few seconds later, she opened it. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Leland? I pushed past her without waiting for an invitation, stepping into the house that used to be mine. It smelled the same, lavender and vanilla, the scent of a home that no longer belonged to me. She shut the door, turning to face me. What are you doing here? I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel love. I didn't feel heartbreak. I just felt done. I talked to him, I said. Her face went pale. What? I stepped closer. He told me everything. About the lies. About how you made him think we were already over. About how you made me feel like a ghost in my own marriage while you played the victim. She opened her mouth, but I didn't give her the chance to speak. I spent so much time wondering what I did wrong, I continued. But I finally get it now. It wasn't me. It was never me. It was you. She flinched like I had slapped her. Leland, I held up a hand. Save it. I don't care anymore. Her lips trembled, tears pooling in her eyes. Please, can't we just? No, I said, my voice steady. We can't. I pulled the papers from my bag and dropped them on the counter. Divorce papers. Her breath hitched. You already filed? I nodded. I'm done, Edra. She stared at me, her face crumbling. I never wanted this. I let out a bitter laugh. Then maybe you shouldn't have destroyed everything we had. Silence. For a long moment, she just stood there, looking at the papers like they were some kind of foreign object, like she couldn't believe this was really happening. I didn't say anything else. There was nothing left to say. I turned, walked to the door, and left her standing there in the ruins of the life she had set on fire. As I stepped outside, the sun was rising. A new day, a new beginning, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I didn't look back as I walked away from the house that used to be mine. I could still feel her standing there in the doorway, frozen, watching me leave like she hadn't spent months pushing me out of her life. But I didn't stop. I got into my car, shut the door, and let out a long breath. My hands were shaking against the steering wheel. I should have felt relief, maybe even satisfaction, but all I felt was a strange, hollow emptiness. It was over. Everything we had built, everything we had been, it was all gone. I started the engine and pulled away from the driveway, heading nowhere in particular. My phone vibrated on the passenger seat, but I ignored it. I already knew who it was. Edra. She was probably going to beg, plead, try to twist the story one last time, convince me that she had made a mistake, that we could fix this. But there was nothing left to fix. I drove for hours, the city shrinking in my rearview mirror, until I found myself on a stretch of highway that led toward the coast. The sky was a heavy gray, the kind that promised rain, but I didn't care. I needed space. I needed air. Eventually, I pulled into a small gas station off the highway. It was one of those places that barely looked open, with a single pump and a convenience store that probably hadn't been updated since the 90s. I stepped out, the cold air hitting me like a slap. The weight in my chest felt heavier than ever. I went inside, grabbing a coffee that tasted like burnt plastic and a pack of gum I didn't need. The cashier barely looked up from his phone as he rang me up. "Rough day," he muttered, not really interested in the answer. I almost laughed. Something like that. I paid and stepped back outside, taking a deep breath. The air smelled like rain and asphalt, a scent that reminded me of road trips I used to take when I was younger, back when life felt simpler, back when I hadn't been blindsided by betrayal. I pulled out my phone. 10 missed calls. 14 messages. All from her. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to delete them without reading, erase her like she had erased me. But another part of me, the part that had spent 10 years loving her, needed to see what she had to say. I clicked on the messages. "Edra, Leland, please, I need to talk to you. Edra, I know I messed up, but I need you to understand. It wasn't just about you. Edra, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Please just answer me. Edra, if you won't talk to me, at least meet me one last time. Please." I stared at the last message, my jaw tightening. One last time. She wanted closure. Or maybe she wanted to control the ending, the way she had tried to control the entire story of our marriage. I should have ignored it. I should have just moved on. But something in me, the part of me that still needed to see the final moment, to know for sure that there was nothing left to salvage, made me type back 2 words. "Me, where?" Her response came almost instantly. "Edra, the house. Tonight. Please." I exhaled, my grip tightening on the phone. I knew this was a mistake. I knew nothing she said would change the way I felt. But I had spent too long being ignored, disappearing into nothing. I wasn't going to vanish without a final word. Tonight, this would end, for good. I arrived at the house just after sunset. The sky had darkened, the streetlights casting long shadows across the driveway. Edra's car was parked outside, the porch light glowing dimly against the night. For a moment, I just sat in the car, gripping the wheel. I had no idea what I was walking into, but I knew one thing. I wasn't here for her. I wasn't here to fix anything. I was here to close this chapter of my life. I stepped out, my footsteps steady as I approached the door. Before I could knock, it opened. She stood there, eyes red, hair a mess. She had been crying. "Leland," she whispered. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She stepped aside, silently inviting me in. I hesitated for only a second before walking past her, back into what had once been my home. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place I used to belong, like a book I had finished reading. We stood there in the dimly lit living room, neither of us speaking. Then she broke the silence. "I don't know where to start." I exhaled. "Then don't." She flinched, her fingers twisting together. "I didn't come here to beg, Leland. I know I lost you. She swallowed hard. "I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you." I let out a humorless laugh. "You just did it anyway?" She closed her eyes for a moment, as if trying to steady herself. "I was selfish. I was lost. I wanted too much, and I didn't think about what it would do to you." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, you didn't." Tears slipped down her face. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No," I agreed. "You don't." Silence. For a long moment, we just stood there. Then she let out a shuddering breath. "Are you happy now?" I frowned. "What?" She wiped at her eyes. "You got what you wanted. You're free. You can go live your life without me." I stared at her, something clicking into place. This wasn't about me. This was about her. She wasn't crying because she had lost me. She was crying because she had no control over how this ended. Because for the first time in our marriage, I was the one who got to walk away. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything, the pain, the betrayal, the grief, start to lift. "I am happy," I said finally. "Or at least, I will be." She sucked in a sharp breath, but I didn't stay to watch her break down again. I turned, walked to the door, and stepped out into the night. The air felt lighter. The sky looked clearer. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was moving forward. And I wasn't looking